We sent out a quick tweet to refresh your page. I guess I should have done this before we went live. I'm a professional here. People do not try this at home. Okay, there we go. Okay, whew. Sweet. All right, Naomi, so sorry. Well, wait, we don't even have a viewer yet because nobody has found our new location. We'll give it here a second to catch up. And make sure that even speaking works. Oh, yep. Woohoo!
Okay.
Oh gosh.
All right.
I've never had such a, well, hey, you get your lower third set up. That's pretty sweet. All right, we've got viewers trickling in. Thank you everybody for bearing with me for what was actually a massively embarrassing failed hangout maneuver. So thanks for bearing with us. Naomi, I'm not even sure exactly where we left off, but let's not wait. Let's not make people wait any longer. Please tell anyone who hasn't had the pleasure of meeting you who you are.
Let's see. I'm Naomi, and I guess why I'm here is because of the Gravity Forms work that I now do. I started out, as just a consultant, building sites for people, and I guess about 3.5 or 4 years ago, I needed a way to take payments with Stripe using Gravity Forms, and so I asked in the Gravity Forms forums, if they would build it, and they said, well, we're not going to get to it right now, and so I needed it right away. So I went ahead and built it, and I said, okay, just for kicks, I'll put it on the plugin repository and see if maybe it can help someone else. Well, it did. And ever since then, about 3.5 years ago, it's been helping a lot of people, and that's the main thing that I do.
So yeah, you are known. That's how I first stumbled across you, was for one of your Gravity Forms plugins, and of course, the Gravity Forms plus Stripe is sort of your flagship, if you will. But you've got other Gravity Forms related plugins.
I do now, and let's see. Yeah, I have. There's the one that you wrote about a while ago. The utility plugin that I made, and it's so useful. I love that little thing. When you're using Gravity Forms so much, you just you realize these little things that would make your life easier, and so I just kind of put those into a plugin. And then from working with the Stripe add-on, I would have customers contact me and say, hey, can you do this? Can you build this for me? And so that's where a lot of the other add-ons came from, like the dynamic population one, let's see, the Podio one, post to third party, the limit date range, all of those just came out of, customers saying, hey, can you do this for me? So.
Love it. And really, I guess that's what most plugins are born out of some sort of frustration or needing to do something, and if something doesn't exist or you don't feel like waiting on it, you build it yourself.
Exactly.
You recently spoke at LoopConf, and I hate to be just a big moocher of what's there. Did you write your intro description for your talk?
Did I write the description? The one that was on the page, the LoopConf page?
Yeah.
You know, I did, but I don't think I ever intended for that to be the actual title and the actual description. It was, Rob, he said, hey, I'll trade you. I'll help you out with some things if you submit a talk to LoopConf. So I'm like, okay, I wasn't planning on it. And so I just, I came up with something and I submitted it, never thinking that I would get chosen. And then I got chosen. And so I kind of got stuck with that.
Well, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. As a matter of fact, I wanted to share some of what was written there because I think it would resonate with a lot of folks that listen to the show. And you said, how do you keep from hitting a wall and stagnating at your current level? And in that, you say, I'll share my journey over the past 9 years, navigating my way from site assembler to hacking other people's plugins, to finding my niche and how building WordPress products that thousands of sites are using, and also uncovering a methodology for consistently challenging yourself and improving your skills. I love that because that's where all of us started, right? Hacking somebody else's code and kind of figuring it out, and here you are writing really successful plugins. So have you had any formal training, or are you all bootstrapped?
I did. I went to undergrad, got my degree in computer engineering, and so there was programming, computer science courses that was a part of, of that course of study. And so there is kind of, I'm sorry if you hear my son in the background. So there is that, that kind of training, but programming was never something that I thought that I would go into. It was like, okay, you have to take these courses. So we took these courses, I kind of did it for fun. But then, as I said, as I found myself, kind of building sites and, I needed, certain functionality. And so that's kind of how I said, well, I kind of need to dust these skills off. And so, I was trained in C, C++, Java. I worked as a professional Java developer for a while, but, kind of picked up PHP for WordPress.
So you've done it all.
Just a little bit.
Object-oriented programming background?
Yes.
Okay. That's for some reason that is never logically, not logically, but I've just had a hard time wrapping my head around it.
Yeah. And it comes from, at least from what I see, it just comes from, how people teach it. So, all the examples are kind of the same. You have a car and, kind of these really basic things, and you never get to really see it in practice. But there's a guy, Carl Alexander. I think his Twitter name is Twig Press. He does some good articles on WordPress and, kind of programming in an object-oriented style. I really like the way he teaches it. So.
Cool. Well, in that case, I'm going to blame the teachers and not the student for my failure to grasp object-oriented programming.
Always.
Tell us a little bit more. I just want to, I'm pretending we're having a cup of coffee and getting to know each other.
Okay.
You said your son is in the background. How old is he?
He is 2. He just turned 2.
Oh man.
Yeah. So if anybody was at LoopConf, he was not having a good first day. And so you might have heard him screaming in the hotel, and it was so embarrassing.
Those kids, they never behave when you need them to.
Yeah, right?
They're angels when nobody's watching. Oh, cool. And so is he at home with you all day? Or I guess I should ask you opposite home.
Yes, I am. And he is here. And he loves to come up here during the day. And so it's fun, and that's why I love what I do, because, I get to be at home with him. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure he likes to bang around on your keyboard.
Yes, and he has his own keyboard. We have like an old Mac keyboard. I'm not sure if you remember. It has like the clear plastic case with the mechanical keys, and so we kind of have it for
Yeah.
him. And he just kind of sits right there, and he'll bang on it.
Very nice. I wanted to before we keep going, for those of you who are tuning in or retuning in because I messed things up so poorly the first time around, you can ask questions of Naomi by going to Twitter and using the hashtag OfficeFM, or yeah, really, actually, that's going to be the only place because I screwed up the Hangout. The Q&A is not going to be working, so sorry. See, this is why we can't have nice things, Naomi. It is my fault. So tell us a little bit more about LoopComp. How was that?
It was a great experience. It was very well run. You could tell that it was done by professionals, and I think almost everyone has echoed the fact that having the single track, that was really good. The speakers were top notch. So, I mean, I have no complaints. The area was beautiful. The view is just awesome. The hotel was nice. So, I mean, it was a really great time, having the opportunity to, to meet so many of the people that, you may have heard of, you may have interacted with on Twitter, you may have seen their work. And I mean, I had a blast, speaking. So that was fun. And it's funny because I actually got sick when I went out there. And so I spent the whole day of my talk, I was in my room, just trying to medicate and, not talk. And because I had like no voice, my throat like closed up. So that was interesting. But yeah, it was a great time.
Cool. Have you been to other conferences, I mean, like non-WordCamp conferences in that vein?
I went to the second Pressnomics, and that was great. I think that's it. Yeah, Pressnomics.
I got to go to Pressnomics this past year, and then also recently got back from the Authority Conference, and the thing. Oops. Well, in the spirit of just really screwing this up, I'm going to mute myself when I talk. But you mentioned that the conference was single track, and of course, that's very, very different from a WordCamp, but so beneficial when it comes to, you're all on the same page in terms of conversations. You're all sitting in the same sessions, hearing the same things, and you don't feel like you missed out. So very, very cool. And you speak at a lot of WordCamps, speaking of.
I try to speak at my local WordCamp, every time that they'll have me back. Just because I'm not doing too much traveling. I did speak at WordCamp Charleston last year, but just with the baby, it was a little difficult to travel. So, I'm not traveling all over the US or Europe yet, but maybe I will look into branching out, a little bit later as he gets older. So,
well, don't have the dates finalized yet, but this fall, looking for a WordCamp Dallas-Fort Worth that I'll be helping organize. And I don't know, has your baby seen Texas?
I was trying to get out there last year for Pods Camp that Scott was putting on in conjunction, I think, with the Dallas-Fort Worth one, but it didn't work out for me. But yeah, this year has been crazy with travel. So I'll probably, I've been traveling the past 3 months, almost every other week. So that's been really difficult.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And especially with the toddler in tow.
Exactly. So okay. I said, if I don't have to see another plane for a really long time, that would be great.
Okay, in that case, maybe WordCamp DFW 2016. I'm going to give you the pass this time around.
Thank you.
So a lot of the folks that listen to the show are either freelancers, developers or designers either getting their feet wet. Some are established, but some are still kind of getting their feet wet in the WordPress space. And I think, though, that for the most part, they have more to offer people than they realize. Specifically in terms of either sharing their knowledge, maybe at a local meetup or a WordCamp. Do you have any words of encouragement or tips or tricks to help someone say, go ahead and submit that speaker application, throw your hat in the ring?
Definitely. I would say that, if you're working with WordPress, there's always someone else that you can help that knows less than you. So instead of, focusing on all of the people that know more than you, focus on the people that you can help. All right. Those that you can help up. And as far as getting started speaking, definitely your local WordPress meetup, is a great place to start out. Because it's not a big conference like a WordCamp or a LoopConf or a Pressnomics, and they're there to help. That's what they're there for, to help you get established, to practice speaking, to give you tips. I think Jen, Milo, and a couple of other people, they created a resource for people who are looking to get started speaking, who may be a little fearful. So go for it. Whatever it is that you know well, it's always going to be more than what someone else knows. Some people saw my tweet this weekend. I taught my 80-year-old grandmother over Skype how to use WordPress this past weekend, and I mean, she had a ball. So, I mean, if you just know your way around the WordPress dashboard, that's more than what someone else knows. And, there's always people that are looking to learn more. So just find one thing that you've learned. And I think a lot of times people think that, it has to be, something big and grand and they have to be an expert. There's this methodology where you teach what you learn. All right. So you teach as you learn. So if there's one thing that you've learned, even if it's just 5 minutes, a lot of times local WordPress meetups will allow these like 5-minute lightning talks, and you can just share one thing that you learned, the past week, the past month. So please go for it.
So many little pearls of wisdom in there. The first that you mentioned, or that really resonated with me, was more than somebody else knows. And that's especially the case of the WordCamp, because you get such a wide variety of users. I mean, you'll get users that have, maybe just clicked, done the one-click install on their host, and that's as far as they've gotten. And wow, so impressive, A, that your grandmother uses Skype, and then B, that you've got her using WordPress. That's very nice. Yes, so focusing on the people you can help, and thanks, Peaks Media is tweeting, quoting you. So, by the way, excuse me one moment while I address this tweet. So
Okay.
Paul's thinking that maybe all of my technical difficulties today are because I spent last week in Colorado and might have had too much candy. But I did not have candy. I did not have. Well, I was about to, anyways, that was as far as I could go with the Clinton impersonation on that words I probably shouldn't say. Okay, so rolling back into your great wisdom on encouraging people to share what they know. And then the other thing you said was teaching, learning by teaching. That's so much of how I learned. I would, figure out how to do something and then blog about it as a tutorial, and that really helps cement knowledge. Because if you can turn around and explain something, then you've grasped it. So, man,
Exactly.
good wisdom pearls. All right, so let's get technical. Let's get nerdy.
Okay.
We're going to talk about stripes and gravity forms. what was your biggest hurdle there? Is Stripe API pretty easy to work with?
Absolutely. Stripe is probably the easiest part. Yeah, Stripe is the easiest part. WordPress is probably the next easiest part, and then Gravity Forms is, kind of the next hurdle to knock out, because there are three things that you're trying to integrate with there, and so definitely, that's the key. You have an API. A code base, and then a plugin that's written on top of that code base, and now you're trying to write another plugin. And so, it's always challenging working with other people's code. So
Working with other people's code, is that a reference to extending Gravity Forms, or?
I would say any plugin. Yeah, any plugin. So not just Gravity Forms.
Any pitfalls that you can help us steer clear of when it comes to working with the payment gateway, if anybody's working on that kind of a plugin?
Payments are interesting. Payments, anytime, especially if you're taking credit card payments, they're governed by the PCI rules, and most people don't know those. And so, you have people that are building these payment gateway plugins, and they don't understand the requirements for anyone who's taking credit cards. And most people, they're like, oh, hey, I can take payments online, so hey, I'll go ahead and do that. So one example is, like SSL. Thankfully, Gravity Forms, they had already had an authorized.net add-on, and with that add-on, they said, hey, if you don't have SSL on your site, since that is a requirement for PCI compliance, they kind of have this, this red box that appears that says, hey, you need to make sure that, that your site is secured. So I would say one thing is, kind of helping users not cut their foot off, in a sense, kind of, helping them in spite of themselves. Also with payments, it's a bit scary, because especially if you have people who, that's their livelihood. They make money with their site. Well, guess what? If it's not working, they're losing money, every second, every minute. And so I think some things that concern me, I guess, are just the haphazard way in which some people go about creating these payment plugins and putting them out there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and I see some of the bugs that pop up, and I'm like, wow, every moment somebody's, payment system is down, they're not making money. So there's a liability thing there as well. So you have to make sure you say, hey, I cannot be liable for your business. Use this plugin at your own risk. Because that can be very detrimental to someone's business.
Man, you just made a really scary point. Is there a kind of the developer dummies guide to PCI compliance? I mean, that's a frustrating thing. Like, we're not in the financial industry, or most of us aren't, and know the ins and outs of taking credit cards and handling that sort of data. Resources you would recommend for sort of boning up on the minimum knowledge that you would need?
I mean, sure. I just went right to the PCI security standards site, and I think they're on version 3.0 now. And I just went and I read through the documentation, just so that I knew what all of the rules are. Companies like Stripe, what they do is, they try to abstract, some of the difficulty, in meeting those standards. They try to abstract some of those away so that you don't have to be so concerned with it, but you still need to know, what the rules are, so that how Stripe covers you.
Interesting. Okay, so there's some protection built in with the payment processor, or Stripe in this case.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why, that's why Stripe is so popular because, let's say you're using authorize.net. I mean, I think there's like six points or six steps that you have to go through as far as being PCI compliant. Well, with Stripe, all you have to do is, put an SSL certificate on your site. People think that's difficult. It's really not. You can get one from Namecheap for like $9 a year. Um, so have an SSL certificate on your site and use Stripe. And that way, none of the credit card information ever hits your servers. And so you don't have to worry about, making sure your servers kind of, follow the, all of the steps that the PCI Security Council requires. I'm not saying that you don't need to be PCI compliant, but since the card information is not hitting your servers, then you don't have to worry about those steps that deal with, how you handle card numbers because you're not handling them.
Interesting. Okay, good to know. I'm just going to have a moment in which we all collectively love on Stripe. Coming off of, the era of, primarily using PayPal and then, dabbling a little bit into authorize.net.
Yeah.
So difficult to use.
Yes. Yes.
Disjointed documentation.
Yes.
A user interface that just, well, let's just say leaves something to be desired. And when I don't know, maybe a year and a half or so ago, I started using Stripe, and it was clean, simple.
Yes.
Setting up a sandbox environment is exactly so freaking easy. I can't see straight. So yes, I can see why you opted to to work with Stripe.
Oh yes, and I think after that experience, I have committed to not working with another difficult API ever in my life because life is too short. My time is precious.
There you go. Quote of the day: life is too short to work with a crappy API.
Definitely.
Or payment gateway, I guess you'd say. Yeah, so if anybody's listening and has not tried out Stripe, give that a whirl. Except, is it available for outside the US?
It is. As a matter of fact, they just launched in Japan. But if you go to stripe.com, and I believe it's /global, let's see. Stripe.com. Yeah. Stripe.com/global, and it lists all of the countries that where they are available.
Cool. All right. Check that out. We've got a question from Ginger. She's asking, do you do any theme development, custom theme development?
Oh, absolutely not. You do not want me going anywhere near your theme.
All right, well, that is a definitive answer. Well, then the second half of her question I'm going to ask, but apply it to plugins. She was asking about like a starter theme, but do you have kind of a plugin boilerplate that you always roll out with?
It's not something that's available. It's something that I guess I would say I've developed over time, as I've learned. And I've taken, some of the best parts from, from other people's code. That's one thing that I find really helpful is reading other people's code, especially from larger systems. But there is one for plugin development. It's called the WordPress plugin boilerplate. It's on GitHub, and I think the website is WPB. Let's see.
That's the Tom McFarlane one?
Yeah, he actually handed it off to someone else. Yeah, it's WPPB.io. And that's kind of the one that's, out there, that a lot of people know about and use.
Cool. Well, thank you for that resource. Tell us a little bit about we're nerds here. We like to get into the details. What's your development environment locally?
I am on VirtualBox. Micah, oh no, Micah Wood, he spoke at LoopConf. He's one of the co-organized meetup. He's been trying to convert to Vagrant for a while, but I'm a Unix system admin. And so this was before Vagrant was around. And so I kind of set up my VirtualBox and it's there and I don't have to do anything else with it. And so I'm really attached to it. And so, but one day I am going to move to Vagrant. But it's just easier right now, the path of least resistance to stick with what I've got. And of course, I mean, Vagrant is built on top of VirtualBox, but, I just kind of built my own box and I use that. But yeah, VirtualBox, PHP Storm, and a debugger. I mean, those three, especially PHP Storm and a debugger, those have kind of caused exponential growth in my development as a developer. I mean, just those two things right there, because of being able to walk through any piece of code and see what's going on and learn. And, then PHP Storm is just so helpful for WordPress, being able to quickly go back and forth between filters and actions and find out where they're extended, quickly find those, quickly find my way through any code base. So, I mean, those are my main tools.
Are that with the debugger, or maybe it's just part of PHP Storm? Can you step through logically code? So say you're stepping through a function and it calls another function.
Exactly.
It pops over there, and then so you're seeing it, you're parsing it visually as the machine would read it.
Exactly. So you can journey through just about any code base and figure out what's going on. See what happens, if you change some variables, in real time. So that's pretty cool.
It's
so very helpful. I mean, I said this at LoopConf, it amazes me when I ask developers, well, how do you debug your code? And they're like, well, either I don't, or I use these print statements, and so they put these print statements everywhere in their code. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Use a debugger.
I might be guilty.
Yeah. That's all right. But I'm telling you, use a debugger. It will make your life so much easier.
Okay, I'm using Sublime Text currently, so I mean, of course, not as many bells and whistles as a full IDE like PHP Storm. I don't know what debugging tools. I'm sure there are some. So.
Oh yeah, there are. And it's funny because I was a strict text editor person for a long time, like Notepad, that was kind of my thing. But then Mike Schinkel, he was another speaker at LoopConf. He's here in our local WordPress community. He showed me PHP Storm, and I had to let go of the text editor and say, yeah, this is better. This is will help me be much more productive. So yeah, I was never an IDE person though. I just felt like they were really bloated and too much, but I'm a convert.
You jumped in. Well, switching gears a little bit, we have a question from Paul. He's asking, back to the Stripe conversation, but anything special to know for churches or nonprofits or that sort of thing, accepting donations with Stripe?
I mean, offhand, no. As far as, if there's anything special that you need, there's nothing special that you need on Stripe's end, as far as being a church or a nonprofit. Now, as far as your own reporting on your end, yeah, there are, tons of things that of considerations, that you'll have, documentation and reports and all of those. But, as far as just processing the payments with Stripe, I think they're a great solution. And, you even have those businesses that, that run on donations. They find it helpful to implement the recurring payments portion so that, people can give on a subscription basis, so they don't have to keep coming back and, donating once off, but you can, have people on a subscription. So those types of organizations find that particular aspect helpful.
Cool, good deal. And then another question about Braintree. Ever use them for payments?
I have never used them, but I know who they are. I know about their service. They were bought by PayPal. And I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to say, no, use Stripe. But, I use what works best for you.
Okay, now that's a politic answer. Just stick to Stripe, and that's okay. Rob New is chiming in on the Twitters, which I just get giddy, a little fangirl when Rob's trailing the show. Hi, Rob. He mentions that you can use Xdebug with Sublime Text as a debugging tool. So cool. Thank you for that, Rob. All right, so a few more minutes here. If you want to get a question in for Naomi, just post it on Twitter with the hashtag OfficeFM. Okay, so you talked about your development environment. Move me through your deployment or what you're using to go from local to live.
Well, I don't really do sites if you're talking about deploying sites. As far as my plugins, all of those are managed in a Git repository. If they're going to WordPress, then they will be pushed via SVN. I was using Git SVN. That just didn't work out too well for me. So
tell me about that. What was? Because I was curious to try it out.
That was a couple years ago. I don't remember, but I think trying to keep the Git and the SVN repositories using Git SVN, like I said, it just didn't work out for me. So now I use an SVN client for pushing the files to the WordPress repository.
So you maintain those two repos separately, or do you? It's all well and good in Git, and then you magically make it go over to an SVN repo?
Yeah, everything is maintained in Git, and then when I'm ready to to publish a new version, I just kind of copy the files over with the SVN client, and it'll be uploaded to the WordPress repo. So, and I think that's how most people manage their plugins that go to WordPress. Everything kind of happens in Git, and then they just use SVN to to push a new release.
Okay, so nobody just does SVN on purpose because they want to.
I won't say nobody, but I suspect that a majority of people probably do not use SVN for managing the day-to-day workflow of their plugin.
Well, those are the people who aren't using Stripe either. They just like Stripe the hard way. Well, Naomi, the hour went by really fast, namely because I screwed up the giant first half of that with, just a cluster of technical difficulties. So first, my apologies. If anybody's, when you're listening to the show, either live or if you're listening to this after the fact on iTunes, please know Naomi rocks. Carrie is technically challenged. So that was all on me. So we're about to wrap up here. I did want to thank the show sponsors, ManageWP, the single dashboard to manage all of your dashboards. You can check them out at managewp.com. And Curtis McHale with his Effective Client Email Book, helping you write better emails. You can check that out over at curtismchale.ca. Naomi, you mentioned that you're not going to be getting on a plane anytime soon, but is there a word camp on the books? Anything else in 2015 where there might be a live sighting?
No, nothing else. Nothing else for me. My husband is begging me not to travel anymore, so we actually do have we have one more trip to take here next week. So we'll be gone for a couple of weeks and then that's it. So
Good. Well, yeah, spend some time with your family and can certainly appreciate wanting to not step on a plane for a long time. Well, Naomi, where can people find you online to follow up and say hello or just see what you're up to?
I'm on Twitter at Naomi C. Bush. And then my website with all of my gravity forms work is gravityplus.pro. Uh-oh. Let's see.
You don't know?
Okay, we kind of froze there.
Oh, sorry. That was funny because I asked you what the C stands for, your middle name, and then it sounded like you were looking something up on a computer. I was like, she doesn't know?
Oh.
Oh.
No, that's my middle name. It's Celeste.
All right, Celeste. We know your secrets. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Naomi, and thank you for everyone who tuned in and hung with us. You are awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Until next week, we'll see you then. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.